YouTube comments from a video titled, "Watch, the most compelling argument against tech in schools, Sophie Winkleman." Part 11.
As Solomon Sounds wrote.
And why aren't smartphones sold as adult-only devices? I'll tell you why, because DARPA wants control of your kids. Take control and don't give smartphones to your kids.
At CrazyCatLady 4499 wrote.
Is there some other version of AI that only certain people have access to that actually works? I have never gotten a useful answer from an AI robot, not one time. All I get is, "I don't understand your question, please try again with less words."
And Michael Joyce Q6S wrote.
I am retired. Back when I was younger, before tech schools, companies hired people, and if you were hardworking and a willingness to learn, they got to keep their new job. If not, bye.
Cardinal 701 wrote.
Sadly, this, in my opinion, is all by design. The powers want us distracted by our screens so we can't see what they're doing to us, and the ice melting right under our feet.
At Nathan Eve Live wrote.
So she was on a bus watching a man and woman both on a dating app, and if they had only looked into each other's eyes and put their phones down. Asian mem. Smells fishy right from the start.
At Jennifer Gopinath wrote.
Wow, this is so true. Well said, and I totally agree with Sophie Winkleman. It is not too late to ban IT in schools and restore traditional educational methods in our schools.
At Big Red 8438 wrote.
Yes, tech and spirituality, are they mutually exclusive? A recent poll of people in Western countries indicated that 20% identified as spiritual in nature. This makes providing salvation for humanity a much more manageable task, really. If the atheists and agnostics and the Brave New World technophiles don't understand the association between spirituality and humanity, perhaps salvation in its broadest sense is not an option. Materialism, transhumanism, genetic interventions, and enhancements for health and life-prolonging strategies abound, or will soon enough. The die is cast, is it not? Do something about understanding your spiritual place in the world before your time is up, to avoid coming back to hell on earth again.
At Big Red 8438 wrote.
As a former teacher, Lel hated tech in schools. The problems with it are numerous. The cost to buy and then maintain them when tech is being repaired through mistreatment, the absence of that tech learning aid in the lesson, the effects of Wi-Fi signal in every class, the amount of off-task time spent in lessons, the charging issues related to tech, the inability of kids to log into websites the school subscribed to, the number of kids who didn't have tech with them because they forgot it, the issue caused when kids want to have their phones with them and out on the table, and the disciplinary issues raised by this. Loss of vocabulary, loss of physical writing capability, even though academic level tests are all still handwritten. Tech creates many loopholes in the rules and discipline policy which kids exploit.
At Lissa Longhurst 490 wrote.
I watched and heard a child scream when the mother wanted the phone to pay for her goods at the register. The child did not let up, and mother was flustered and challenged to take the phone pay, then appease the child by handing back. I could not help but say, it won't get easier.
At Gloria Bailey 6170 wrote.
One big problem I found with computers in the class, my students could not read the questions on the test. It was read to them. This discourages the use of thoughts. SST our children should be thinking over in the brain to make logical answers.
At John O'Connor 1435 wrote.
Social media has always been designed into its software to separate relationships. Period. Actually talk in person? Interact in person? Oh no. Too much work for lazy America.
At It's Just Weird 2328 wrote.
Yep. I've had this battle for 30 years trying to keep my young children off phones, tablets, and computers. I wasn't only fighting to keep them very limited, if not at all, I had to fight the system. And the rest of society, including friends and family. Because I could see what was going to happen in the future. Nobody listened. I finally had to give in and supply my daughter with a cell phone at the age of 13. But then the battle continued with social media until she finally left home and she did her own thing. Then I started the battle all over again with my young son. Same situation. Try to encourage him to do outside activity which he had plenty of options to do. About to no avail, constant arguing, because his friends and his friends' mothers and fathers were allowing them to be constantly on social media and have their own cell phones. Then the schools demanded it. It was truly a losing battle for me from the start. He has just turned 18 now. He spends a lot of time in his room on social media. He's never really had a hobby, and I can go on and on about it, but I'm tired, and it's a real shame that the generation has been lost to tech like this.
At Icarus 6424 wrote,
No one has ever put out a paper or academic work that concludes phones are good for us. We still use them like we think we need them. When are we going to stop calling them phones, because that's not what they are? It's one of the biggest marketing dupes ever. It's not a phone, it's an unregulated portal into a very ugly world.
A Bright Elk wrote,
I've been trying to make friends with adults my age, and it's been a nightmare. They are terrified of me when I say I don't have a social media. One lady very bluntly said she wouldn't be friends with someone she couldn't vet on Facebook or Instagram, because how else is she supposed to know if I'm a safe person or not? Maybe have a conversation face to face. Seems like there's more data to collect through that than the pretentious social media. People actually get nervous when they can't friend you online. It seems like some of it is because they literally don't know how to hold a face-to-face conversation for long. I asked her mom if she wanted to hang out and get a coffee at the local cafe, and she looked at me like I grew 3 heads.
At Robier 1447 wrote,
Screens destroy the ability to regulate, focus, and to have endurance. Children should not have screens at school until age 15, and then it should be limited to schoolwork, not outside use. Get your kids outside, read books, play games. Teachers will thank you.
A Sniper Legend warrior wrote,
Zionism and the Jewish nation. Zionism is based on the belief that Jews constitute a nation, and therefore have the right to self-determination like all other nations. Emmanuel Ottolenghi. Jews demanded Palestine as their homeland, and there were 2 ways to justify this claim. Secular Jews could argue a historical right to Palestine, claiming descent from biblical tribes. They asserted that reclaiming this land would be easy because, according to early Zionist discourse, it was a land without a people, with no claimants during their absence. Religious Jews had a simpler and more persuasive argument. If their God had promised this land to their ancestors, they merely had to exercise their divine right to the promised land. A dispersed ethnic nation or religious communities? The Israeli settler colonial narrative in Palestine primarily relies on the claim that Jews are a nation. This claim is built on 2 pillars, the idea of Jewish diaspora and the notion that Judaism remained confined to the ethnic group that originally embraced it. The implied conclusion is that the Jews who dispersed across the world and survived are ethnically and nationally linked to the original Jewish tribes in Palestine, from which they were supposedly expelled. It also assumes that no other races or ethnicities converted to Judaism, preserving the purity of the Jewish race. However, as historian Shlomo Sand argues in The Invention of the Jewish People, The idea of a Jewish diaspora following the Roman expulsion in 70 CE is a myth. He states, "We find no mention in Roman records of any mass expulsion from Judea." Similarly, Egyptian scholar Gamal Hamdan, in his study The Jews Anthropologically, refutes the theory of racial purity, concluding that today's Jews are not descendants of ancient Israelites. The Jews of today are largely mixed, with no anthropological link to any ancient Israelite origins. The only connection is religious. Sand also highlights warnings from Israeli geneticists, such as Raphael Falk and Aaron El Haik, against classifying Jews ethnically by inventing a fictitious Jewish genetic origin, calling it scientific fraud. He notes the embarrassing scientific dilemma. There is still no way to determine who is Jewish and who is not based on DNA. Sand further dismantles the claim that Judaism was never a proselytizing religion, stating, "Judaism in antiquity was not closed or isolated. On the contrary, it was as enthusiastic about conversion as Christianity and Islam later were." The Khazar conversion and the myth of Jewish ethnicity. In 1976, Arthur Koestler dropped his literary bombshell. The 13th tribe, which argued that most modern Jews are not of Palestinian origin, but descended from the Khazars, a Turkic Mongolian people from the Caucasus who converted to Judaism in the 8th century. Koestler concluded, the mainstream of Jewish migration did not flow from the Mediterranean through France and Germany to the east and back again, but moved steadily west from the Caucasus through Ukraine into Poland and Central Europe. Even Ben-Zion Danur, considered the father of Israeli historiography and a former Israeli education minister, acknowledged the Khazar kingdom was the mother of Jewish communities in Russia, Lithuania, and Poland. Who were the Khazars? The Khazars were a powerful Turkic Hunnic tribal confederation that established a vast empire between the Black and Caspian Seas. At their peak, they controlled territories stretching from Kiev to Crimea and from the Volga to Georgia. Their conversion to Judaism in the 8th century was politically motivated. Caught between the Christian Byzantine Empire and the Muslim Caliphate, adopting Judaism allowed them to maintain independence. As Koestler explains, if they had adopted Islam, they would have become spiritual subjects of the Caliph. Christianity would have tied them to Byzantium. Judaism, respected by both, was the perfect middle ground. Arab and Hebrew accounts of the Khazar conversion. Early Arab sources, such as Ibn Fadlan and al-Masudi, describe the Khazar king and nobility converting to Judaism to avoid political subjugation. Jewish sources, like Judah Halevi's Kuzari, and the Khazar correspondence between Hasdai ibn Shaprut and King Joseph of Khazaria, confirm this conversion. The fall of the Khazar Jewish kingdom. The Khazar kingdom collapsed after defeats by the Rus 965 CE and the Mongol invasions 13th century. The Jewish Khazars dispersed into Eastern Europe, forming the demographic core of Ashkenazi Jewry. Conclusion. The Zionist claim to Palestine rests on a fabricated historical narrative. Modern genetic and historical research disproves the myth of an unbroken ethnic link between today's Jews and the ancient Israelites. The majority of contemporary Jews descend from the Khazars and other converts, not the biblical tribes. The only connection is religious, not ethnic or historical. In short, the idea that modern settlers in Palestine or today's Jews are ethnically linked to a mythical biblical tribe is absurd. The overwhelming majority of Jews today are of Khazar origin, with no anthropological evidence connecting them to ancient Israelites. The only tie is religion. Open your mind to see the truth. Trump will not gonna save you from God. Look what they are doing to your children. You will understand everything. Believe me, we have all the same enemy.
As Snow White UC3 GG wrote.
Credit to Sweden. Other countries should follow lead if they want the children to have healthy upbringing. Parents and all grown-ups are responsible too, by not providing those gadgets until the children are over 18. Treat these gadgets that as emitting digital candy that instead of causing the teeth to decay, impacts the child's health and IMA. Look after the children early and look after their well-being. Prevention is better than cure.
A Golf 2 Photo wrote.
It's about balance. If you allow your child watch something, refrain from cartoons and animated shows. Educational shows are okay, and don't get the kids hooked. Don't give them phones and iPads either.
A hit_W_truth wrote.
There's an Ohio bill to ban phones in class. I am 53 and I don't understand why this is even an issue. Why does that even need to be enshrined in law? If I was a teacher, there would have been no phones out in my class for at least 10 years now.
At Ranjit Sandhu 2326 wrote.
I used to give phone to my child for 3 to 4 months. One day I thought deeply about this. From that day onwards, I stopped giving the phone. This new world term, screen time, is damaging the childhood of the children. Surprisingly, I see children cell phone screen for 7 to 8 times a day near about 3 to 4 hours. Sometimes we, as a parent or grandparent, to get rid of the child, we have found the most easiest way to provide phone to the child, and we are engaged in our own things, or we ourselves also start watching it. This is unfortunate for all of the humanity. We need to take good steps towards this as soon as possible. Schools should also initiate the use of homework diaries, books, notebooks, and pencils.
Evalab 19 wrote.
Best of luck for you, the older generation, and I am one of them. Those who refuse to adopt to the new technological generation will go down in the history to give way for those who young, at least in spirit.
At Roscoe 8569 wrote.
I am 40 years old. When I was young, I said to my family and friends that I will not have children and family. They were surprised, and they often told me that I was looking bad for future. My vision for them was too black, we say in French. I am 40 years old, I have no children, and I am happy. I have no mobile phone for 15 years now. I have no TV. I use my bike a lot. I buy my food locally. I do not understand why people make children in this kind of world we have. They do for themselves. We know we are social animal, but instead of living together, we live against each other. We do exactly the opposite of what we should do. And when I say the opposite, I do not talk of AI who is on the way. Life is not about money, not about ego, not about image, not about status, not about time. Life is just a moment to pass. Guys, it is easy to clap this woman, but what are you waiting for to get moving?
At Izzy 4575 wrote.
The cat is out of the bag. You cannot take away the screens kids were given during pandemic. They were put in front of screens 6 hours a day for school where nobody learned anything, and then continued on screens to socialize and play with their friends. You now must give your child a screen, primarily for social reasons. Because that's how this generation communicates and plays via technology. They connect sharing memes, playing video games together. They do not watch TV at all, but they're on YouTube and TikTok and laughing over the latest Skibidi Toilet or Mr. Beast video. This is where they learn what's cool. This where they listen to music and learn about AI and everything else. The problem solving should be not how to take it away, but how to learn to live with it.
Jonathan_Dawson wrote,
You know why they didn't register. Because it is the boy who usually approached the girl, but now it is shunned upon as stalking or creepy, and in the worst case the boy can get sued for harassment, ain't it?
Showman3927 wrote,
Not all children are the same. Please do not stray from neurodiversity. I don't want to go back to a time where us on the spectrum were subjected to exorcisms and cruel behavior like what the US is currently moving towards to. If we can give individual care education to each child, so many problems in society would be solved.
Gary Santos 7053 wrote,
Due to the easy access to knowledge, today's youth are far more intelligent than previous generations. Due to the readily available influence of technology, today's youth have more access to knowledge and understanding than ever before, particularly the internet and social media. This increased access provides more opportunities for learning, connecting, and participating in global conversations. The real question you should be asking yourself is, are you, today's parents, intelligent enough to help guide your child through the pitfalls and opportunities of the almost infinite knowledge of today's technology?
Victory Over Evils wrote,
128 true 1, 52 total disintegration 2, 22 2, 34 2, 38 3, 08 must rescue our children 3, 23 44 4, 05 4, 15.
At the Great 7861 wrote,
The biggest mistake I have made as a parent is giving my children a phone. I tell all of my friends with younger kids not to do it. I hope they listen to me and learn from me. The government will not step in to ban phones because the tech companies want the money and don't care about the future of humanity.
At Paul Boberg 5512 wrote,
A tyrant needs to first destroy empathy. A newborn has no empathy. They are in many ways highly narcissistic. Then they begin to react with their peers and teachers, and from that experience they develop empathy. Destroy the interaction, destroy the empathy. Now you have the perfect environment to create a dystopian tyrannical society.
Karen Barry 1C wrote,
Steven Pinker also has some compelling insights into children's education and the use of Grammarly. He is a psychologist and linguist. His video are interesting and insightful, worth watching. I also recommend Blue Screen Protector Screen to laptops and computers. You can also buy Blu-ray glasses that filter out and block the harmful effects of Blu-ray. I believe my sight has worsened over time because of the harmful rays blue light radiates. I also recommend all children should wear sunglasses to stop the harmful effects of the sun. I have myopia because as a child I never wore sunglasses. I believe that is part of the reason I have myopia. If anyone sees my message here, please pass it on to others and ask them to do the same. Also, looking at your mobile phone at night can affect your circadian rhythm. Studies have shown that it's the blue ray light that keep your brain to active during the night and keeps you from getting a better night's sleep.
At Danny Whittle 257 wrote,
It's difficult to navigate this problem into a solution, since most children and students need to be able to use computers and tech more than ever now. More than when I was a teenager back in 93 to 98, it has boomed. and forced us all to evolve or be uneducated in the ways of internet safe navigation techniques need to be implemented. We give our kids segments of time during the day, allowing them to be on a screen. But we also realize we are moving into times where we're reliant too much nowadays, since most things nowadays requires you to have a smartphone.
Isamahamali 12M wrote.
This is very true. Until the age of 12, I was born and raised in a rural part of Italy. During my time in primary school, teachers thought with chalk and blackboard, with teachers writing down every note they speak of, and us writing notes down in pen and paper while being enthusiastic to read the next passage for the class to hear. At the start of every academic year, our dad would take us to a bookshop and we would buy our new books for the new class. And me and my little sister would then spend the whole evening reading through what we'll be learning during that school year. I was absolutely terrified when moving to the UK and seeing teachers using smart boards for everything. Their teaching was being done by a YouTube video instead of themselves, and everything was already written on the board for us to copy with little input from the teacher who was in class. Later that evening, I was handed a school laptop to do my homework in, and I was even more confused as to why this instead of a taboo diary. And of course, not even one book was requested for Nay to bring. Slowly but surely, I adapted to the UK's academic learning system, but now I'm the most fidgety, distracted, unbothered, irritated, and impatient person I've ever seen myself be. Instead of doing my schoolwork in Google Classroom, I always get drawn by YouTube videos and other websites. All of my essays and research have to be done on computer. But I spend so much time just getting through with writing one paragraph. This internet learning has ruined me, and I no longer feel the joy of reading books. I'm impatient and barely go out. But I'm a 17-year-old now, and I have no choice but to deal with it. Became there is no other way undo the damage which has already been done, and I can't complete my work otherwise.
At Monte Cassino L7X wrote.
And yet the governments and institutions want us to be unable to exist without scanning a QR code or being texted a passcode, and it's only going to get worse. I can no longer access my bank account without a smartphone, and when you tell support you don't own one, they react as if you are some dangerous, eccentric dissident. People don't even communicate via emails anymore. You have to be on WhatsApp, where someone you telephoned, maybe once about something, is suddenly asking you to join them on the Meta-owned device. As they say, when a device is free, you are the product.
At Junie_Varlano 1905 wrote.
My brother's children got tablets when they were 2.5. One child turned 7 and has a smartphone now. This is just crazy for me to watch. I don't have kids, but I'd never given them a tablet phone before at least 10 Tatchu's 12 years old. And this is already early enough. At family gatherings, I always feel like an alien, being the only one not having their phone in front of the table. The guys watch soccer, the women scroll photos, fashion stuff, or other nonsense. All at the table we used to talk during tea time. The recent years, I caught myself not wanting to go there anymore. I have more fun reading a book, painting with watercolor, or writing some stories while staying at home. It's sad.
At Mark wrote.
Respectfully, everyone learns differently. I grew up in 70s and 80s education system. It was a massive failure. I've learned more online in a single day than entire school years in the old method. You're successfully highlighting important challenges in technology adoption. That said, pretending the past was effective for everyone is simply erroneous.
At Ruing wrote.
At last, people realizing that their world has been purposely changed, you are to be a person of the world. The humanism has been taken out. The public have allowed it.
At Adrian RD, YQ5 New York wrote,
I couldn't agree more. Children spend so much time on devices at home. Then they go to school and spend ridiculous amounts of time on learning apps. I work with children who have reading difficulties. I am in and out of various classrooms all day long. The amount of time that students spend on Chromebooks is very concerning to me. In an effort to offset this for my own children, we only do screen time on the weekends in our household. However, they still have required daily homework assignments to complete on their Chromebooks. All too often, I watch my children complete math tasks with little to no transfer of the skill to their pencil and paper assignments with the same learning objective. All of this is very discouraging. We desperately need to transition back to a screen-free education.
At Barbara Abinet 2705 wrote,
Even before the smartphone, they had Game Boy/video games. I told my young sons this will be the downfall of civilization. Ha ha ha, they laugh. But I can see how this morphed into being attached to all devices. Young children should have storybooks in their hands, not cell phones. The great outdoors is there for us to explore, and yet I see many empty backyards and parks. Don't lazy parent. There are many activities your child can do all on their own. Children today don't know how to communicate or interact in society or solve problems by themselves.
At Felicia Joyclose wrote,
Thank you for this. We should keep children off of screens and especially social media as much as possible. As a teacher of 4 to 6-year-olds, I notice a huge difference compared to when I started teaching at this school 9 years ago.
At Esther Davidson 7959 wrote,
What a clear and concise evaluation of today's education and the total need to roll back time. Speaking with early years professionals and the education of these youngsters is enlightening. The amount of children in primary school who cannot toilet themselves, have no self-discipline, no patience, and who throw wobblies when refused their whims is really disturbing. BUT, they all work, a smartphone, iPad, etc., instant gratification is obviously being hardwired into their brains. I welcome more common sense being promoted by the teaching staff and establishments training teachers. Bravo, Sophie Winkleman. Maybe you should be the minister for Edie Catane.
Espada Works wrote,
Giving student personal laptops, even the special needs kids who are 11 to 13, made me realize that education isn't their goal anymore. The online classrooms are set up so they just guess the answer until it's correct. They copy and paste everything without sources. They'll copy a whole article about something in the title of the paper, but not what that paper is actually about. It's really bad. I've also seen teachers miseducate topics or answers so many times. I personally think I'm more qualified than a bunch of our teachers, and I don't have a degree, nor do I think or ever held the notion that I'm a well-educated person.
At Miss Paven Van Winkle 7859 wrote,
As a homeschooling family of 8, we limit screen time to 30 to 45 minutes at the end of the day. Outdoor time is a vital part of childhood. My children are usually the only ones outside in the whole neighborhood.
At Michelle Mass 5523 wrote,
I'm a high school teacher. Yesterday, I covered a study hall for another teacher. Every single student had his or her face right in a phone. They'd put the phone down, stretch, then go right back to it. It reminded me of those old movies about the mental hospitals where they drugged people into oblivion. These kids were practically drugged by the phones. Not one kid spoke. Not one kid did schoolwork. I was disgusted.
At Agi 1041 wrote,
Tech has its place in schools. Of more importance is teaching the right things in schools. Religion has no place in an academic setting. Shakespeare is well past its sell-by date.
At Jason Haig 5745 wrote,
Tech causes the kids to be emotionally volatile with trouble regulating them.
It causes insomnia, ADHD, and anxiety. It also gives a sense of false accomplishment and dopamine release, making anything else boring by comparison. And if they play games and consistently lose to other players online, they feel shame and lose confidence they don't even have yet. Children under 10 shouldn't be allowed to play online with other children. They are cruel to each other online, and parents do a poor job moderating it. We desperately need to restructure our education systems that identify what is important in today's world.
At Ludwigvan 9889 wrote,
As an educator, I cannot understand this talk at all. We live in a time of civilizational switch, from analog to digital. All this boomer paranoia is exaggerated. It's like Gutenberg saying, "Oh, damn it, people will stare at paper all day now. We should get rid of this new wonderful medium and go back to writing in stone where there will be less information for our fragile brains." We are heading to a digital evolution, and we are in the midst of a digital revolution. You can't stop it. She prepared for this speech on a PC, doing research on her PC, reading papers published online. Good luck advancing in any type of science without a digital screen. Stop it. Our job is to find ways to implement screens better, not to get rid of them FFs.
At Pilgrim Spiritualvage 6252 wrote,
Because governments can't control people who are uneducated and unintelligent, the reasoning is a pretty, simple one, and one the powers that be have been planning all along.
At Attila M9 I wrote,
Back in the 70s and 80s, many parents and babysitters placed their children in front of a TV for care. What's the difference now? Also, generally people don't want to take care of others, have difficulties taking care of themselves. Why do you think the healthcare industry is so lucrative?
At Andy 347 wrote,
I read to my kids every night. Limited computers and phones as much as possible. Sent them outside to play. Had them draw pictures, and their favorite toy was the set of wooden blocks I made for them. We spent hours building towers in the living room. Both highly intelligent, successful college students now with healthy opposite-sex relationships.
At Ethanielm03 wrote,
My parents significantly limited my access to screens and devices when I was a child. In my earlier years, I saw it as limiting and unfair when many of my peers had much more access than I did. Now, as a 21-year-old adult, I'm seeing the trends and effects of technology on not just my generation, but also the next, and I am beginning to see my parents truly were looking out for my well-being.
And Nikri wrote,
Tech is male-dominated and teaching female-dominated. Thus the replacement dollar. Here in the States, we have the world's richest man and tech bro running the country.
At Jason Pike 5821 wrote,
The opening anecdote seems like it's setting up a different topic. Seeing someone on a dating app is like explicitly saying, I am interested in dating. Please approach me. Seeing the same person on a bus is saying, stop being creepy. I didn't dress up nicely for you to look at me. Don't invade my space. Stop harassing me. No means no. I'm just trying to live my day-to-day life. Don't bother me.
The Kane__light wrote,
Self-righteous spying at the hands of supposed leaders is probably the reason young folks only feel safe searching for connection via the initial safeguard of self-disseminated information. Maybe consider getting down off your high horse, as while you're not wrong, you're also certainly not right.
At user EP5SP7KR4L wrote,
I have always said it and always will. The downfall and destruction of the world and human social behaviors began with the introduction of the Internet. In time to come, people will look back in history and try to pinpoint the moment everything changed forever. That moment will align. There is no good from the internet. Whatever happened to people reading and learning things to educate themselves?
At End of Education, 9286 wrote,
I just had a baby, 8 months old, and I am an English centre owner in Asia. We will try our best with my wife to not let our child touch a phone until above 6 or 7 years of age. And limited. For the TV, we will try to use new things such as Netflix to be used Luke TVs when we were young. We used to have limited shows showing after school. So we will try to make whatever cartoon we watch as it used to be back then, instead of giving all episodes available as it is nowadays. And as for my English centre, we only use screens for inquiry, watching a limited but useful amount to bring concepts into life. However, we will always keep most of our teaching as humans as possible. Technology is great but must be used wisely, and bring music in class as analog as possible. Let's try hard for the happiness of the youth.
At Nina Kitchens, 5098 wrote,
Psalm 115, 4-8. For their idols are silver and gold, the work of human hands. 5. They have mouths, but do not speak, eyes, but do not see. 6. They have ears, but do not hear, noses, but do not smell. 7. They have hands, but do not feel, feet, but do not walk, and they do not make a sound in their throat. 8. Those who make them become like them, so do all who trust in them. These children are becoming like the idols that we put in their hands.
Ejongible 1958 wrote,
Excellent observational speech, and I, for one, really do appreciate it. Our children and grandchildren's minds have been corrupted so badly, they are unable to reason some simple discussions to be observed and elaborated upon. They've been taught what to think and not what to think. Is there a difference? The former teaches you to simply obey, and the latter is reserved for the well-to-do and wealthiest in society. The speech is far too late to change the very soon near future.
At Brandybuck wrote,
It's all well and good to say tech bad, but then we need to fund the systems that can support the learning we want. Schools use tech because it's cheap. AI tutors are being researched because it's cheaper than paying a teacher. This isn't just about lazy adults. It's capitalist systems that have been in place to promote good enough instead of excellence. We're raising our futures. Money shouldn't be a limiting factor.
A Thunatural Formula wrote,
And the day that Facebook came online is the day I knew everything would change. I was in my space influencer, and I jumped ship, and I am so glad I did.
At Turk 1984 wrote,
Can't have young people getting information that isn't carefully chosen for indoctrination into mindlessly. Obedient consumers to exploit to generate wealth for terrific oligarchs like the founders of RC. #defund greed, #defund oligarchy, #resup united.
At Listad wrote,
I actually already saw detrimental effects of smart calculators in the early 2000s on math understanding when I was tutoring. And now I see with my children that the whole expensive textbook workbook app methods for primary school teaching are way worse and less flexible than mostly pen and empty paper-based methods with textbooks that can be used multiple years and multiple ways learning styles differ. And it's such a waste of a good business model. Don't privatize developing teaching methods at all.
At Azrath Frost wrote,
Just keep it in moderation. Looking back, most of my English vocabulary skills come from cartoons that I watch every time I go home from school. I don't even read books. But I speak better English than my classmates. If you want to read fast and retain some word spelling, just put subtitles.
At Rogerham wrote,
What a stupid argument. Why do people keep regurgitating the same BS? What they say now about smartphones, they said about music, TV, video games, comic books. This is just the latest fad. Also, stop romanticizing the past as if it was better for the youth or kids. No, kids might be subjected to prawn, but in the olden good days, they were the prawn. A girl getting married at 12 by a 20-something was the norm. Not to mention the systemic domestic abuse. Compare that to a device that holds all the information you need. I'd rather have the phone. All you got to do is be more involved in your kid's life or simply don't have a kid.
At Renee Chingda wrote,
Bringing back books, pens, and paper in schools could be a powerful way to balance digital learning with traditional methods. Writing by hand has been shown to improve memory, comprehension, and creativity. It engages different parts of the brain compared to typing. Plus, reading physical books reduces distractions that screens might bring, helping students focus and absorb information more effectively. But it's too late, as our corporates, dogs, and politicians are never going to align with this to sabotage their chairs.
At Paul Westwood 4417 wrote,
My daughter could use the computer mouse at the age of 2. She passed her GCSEs with 8 as an AB, got into the Torquay Girls Grammar School to do her A-levels, went to SOAS University and graduated with a first, and is now a senior executive with a marketing company. Throughout her education, she had access to computers, iPhones, and iPads. Educational tech did her no harm. In fact, it helped. Like me, she is dyslexia.
Adele Brooks wrote,
Amen to that. New generations have so much power and knowledge available at their fingertips. And yet, I thank God I grew up in my childhood and part of my adolescence in a world without internet and most of all without social media.
At Elizabeth Barth 5573 wrote,
Turned out okay here. Students now. Friends using the common holiday to work on a self-made WAV together. Not damaged at all. Kept contact across the world through these apps. Parents are impressed. Miss one of my son's gaming and friends from Ukraine. He lived in Sumy and had to go to war without weapons. Hope he has survived.
At Jennifer Jathaga 5702 wrote,
As a grandmother, I too am deeply concerned about these harmful effects that inordinate screen time impacts, especially on developing minds. Thank you for sharing this deeply informative video.
At Jazzmaster 71 wrote,
My 8-year-old son just changes to the worse the more screen time he gets. Now we have limited to just a few hours per week. TikTok, Shorts, social media is an abomination of modern society.
At AP 0000 wrote,
Going outside to play equals stranger danger, hanging out with friends equals economy, is a mess, can't afford it, a hobby equals probably too expensive, can't afford it. Let's not get into all the pitholes around dating, especially for young adult men with all the mixed signal minefield they need to traverse. And for young women with all the crazies out there that they need to be careful of. Yet it is the screens that is the problem. I understand the premise here. I agree to it as well. But blaming everything on the screen, when there are many reasons for why the youth is pushed to that particular technology, is dishonest or misguided. Screen is cheap. Screen is relatively safe. Screen is easy to get. And what is more, the screen is necessary for employment in this modern age. Screen proficiency is a work requirement, and with AI it is becoming even more prevalent. This is not 1980s anymore. We need to fix the world before taking screens away from the youth.
At Stu Robertson 9367 wrote,
I agree, tech in schools needs to be kept in check. I taught maths as a supply teacher, and it was done online. The students kept asking for a calculator. I went over to them and asked why aren't they using the best calculator in the world, the human brain. I then, every lesson, gave students paper and pens to try to work it out, the formulas, calculations. Eventually, the students preferred to use this way and only used a calculator to check their work.
And Mike 5303 wrote,
I really hate how it's always a binary discussion. Either put everything on a screen and let them kids go wild, or ban everything. Nobody is arguing watching TV all day. Might be good. Nobody is arguing that the kids are supposed to watch TikTok all day. Content matters, time restriction matters, individual kid matters. Most studies in this field are low quality. Did the kids develop ADHD because they watch so much TV? Or did the parent put the kid in front of TV because it has HDHD and they are exhausted? No study can answer this as of now. We don't need a screen for every class. And we need times in school where smartphones are forbidden so they interact with each other. And no, the old education is also not ideal and never was. I don't need a teacher to scribble something on a blackboard for 1 hour straight. We need to rethink learning without resorting to extremes. Use your brains, guys. All this black and white thinking makes me sick.
At Leotique wrote,
Boomers are confusing social media with the internet, and the internet with the programs, and the programs apps with the device itself. The first is bad, the second is too large to put it into a category. The latter two are just tools people should learn to master.
At Leotique wrote,
This is what's stopping society from actually come to the point where we understand technology. Forbid it, and kids will find a way to get access to. Show them how to use it right, and a healthy relationship will emerge. Holding on to unnatural things such as books and pens is so brain rot. Children can use their voices to communicate and command a device. They can use their hands and fingers to move objects on the tablet. This is the most natural form of being creative.
At David Kwong 3369 wrote,
Once the invention of computers, there was no avoiding this. And our school just started this year. Going 50-50 iPads. Middle school will be 60 to 75% iPad, and I don't know what high school will be here in Texas.
At Ryan Thompson 591 wrote,
She didn't cite any sources. She just made sense bunch of blanket statements. I get where she's coming from. I just don't see the science. Up your game, Ted.
At Thenoveregimen 5241 wrote,
Educational technology is the biggest hypocrisy in our schools. Districts design policies to limit or ban the use of personal cell phones in schools, and then plop our children down in front of screens for the entirety of the school day. Then they lecture them on healthy eating habits, after which they send them to the cafeteria for lunch, where the only options are pizza, donuts, and a stale fish sandwich. Way to model appropriate choices.
At Orion 8835 wrote,
Yes, we are aware, dear. Digital destruction was inevitable after the tech leaders' inventors pushed the world into an Asperger's behavioral model via internet and the web. Gates, Jobs, Musk, and thousands of content creators and inventor tech nerds all are on the autism spectrum. The world they continuously design is an autistic one. The tantrums, lack of eye contact, pulling away, lying, meltdowns, disassociation, endless random details, passionate, even obsession with content all feed into how sites have had effects on humans. Childlike irresponsibility and lack of reading social cues is rife on the web. Attachment by shadowing a person too closely, another artistic trait, has morphed into online stalking. The web tech has conditioned people. It's all an autism model. Due to the creators having no clue that this whole tech style is not how humans should behave. The horrible thing is, one can't do anything anymore without a smartphone, an email address, mobile phone number, and a connection to a cellular Wi-Fi network. We are all open to fraudsters, criminals, mentally ill people, sex abusers, and isolation. Not to mention brain rot from the lights on the screens and lack of reading a book. AI is now infiltrating and is truly even more bizarre. Preach on. Prevention and hypervigilant care online and using devices is huge. People have to roleplay their way out of crooks preying on people now. It's very tricky as it can overlap in real time. Elderly, disabled, the lonely relapsing addicts, people traveling, roommate seekers, ATM machine users, online shoppers, you name it. They are all at risk. By a push of a button. It's so not just children. In fact, kids Gen Z are a bunch of creepy hackers now spying on everyone.
Jeffinson wrote.
Just going off the title shows the intellect of adults, especially for kids that use them to answer all the questions they have running around their heads. Instead of running around with questions in their heads, they actually have answers now, no thanks to the adults that are trying to keep them from finding the answers that the adults apparently never had the ability to find, and are thus jealous and want to put a stop to all the nonsense running around their own heads. But won't use the internet to do so.
As Salt and Vinegar 4444 wrote.
Getting students to stay away from distractions and social media is totally agreeable. But there's far more evidence and research showing that using digital tools enhances learning in the classroom in tandem with analog learning. Like she said, you need moderation and a school system that only lets digital tools to be used to support, not replace analog learning. She's advocating for a complete wipeout of digital tools, which is a terrible idea. Digital tools aren't the problem. It's the parenting and the administration's approach that needs changing. For instance, drugs aren't inherently bad. The problem lies with people who abuse drugs or enable others to abuse them.
As Snow__Fertile wrote.
If you wonder why we push it, it's cause on an individual family basis, there's been success with much effort. Is it needed or necessary? No. While there are things to gain, actually a lot to gain from internet usage, the method we have been using for centuries works tech from beginner to experts, just gives the illusion that learning faster is better than learning slower. In reality, knowledge is power no matter what. So why not do it slowly, so you don't have to revisit a topic that you have, like ballpark best case scenario, 70% effective strategies in, because you use technology to learn the trade. Our skills and intelligence are used to make our world a better place. If you learn things not in your immediate environment, you'll lose touch with, effectively, our actual world, Earth. You will not be able to comprehend the things it took to get here and there, and will be left to guess or at best play second life catch-up. This breaks people or makes people 50-50ths, but why should that be the standard at all? It's working backwards. I am a victim, at least in the sense that I had to find a second life. It's not the second life part that's scary. That happens all the time in history. No home is forever. But it's the reason why I had to get another life that's unnecessary and avoidable, en masse. Not asking for handouts, by the way, just giving the perspective of someone who's been brain rotted multiple times might be now you never know for sure.
At Dan Stewart 2770 wrote.
Technology literacy for kids ages 11 to 17 should mean learning essential software tools like spreadsheets E, Excel word processors E, G. Word and databases E. G. Access SQL, as well as foundational programming languages like Python, Java, JavaScript, and C.
At Dan Stewart 2770 wrote,
548. Professionals say children 11 to 17 should be limited to 1 to 2 hours per day. Well, that's crazy. That's plus 5,000 hours. Half that time during those formative years spent doing virtually anything else, playing tennis, soccer, chess, or Scrabble, reading history, science, or fiction, learning guitar, piano, drums, or singing, doing art, exploring, hiking, or training a dog or a crow. Whatever is enough to have a major positive impact on, or even set the course of a child's life.
At Dan Stewart 2770 wrote,
I have a beautiful home library with 3,000 books. I spent the first 30-plus years of my adult life deeply immersed in reading physical books. Over the past 10 years, though, I've read only a handful of books. I shifted to audiobooks. Listening is inferior to reading, but even then, my engagement was minimal. My time and my mind gradually became consumed by social media, empty calories, often toxic and hard to turn away from. Now I'm reading my first hardcover book in years. I've committed to breaking my social media addiction, just as I gave up alcohol several years ago.
At Crudaflex 953 wrote,
I agree mostly, except for the part about Christian heritage. That has nothing to do with good education. Also, if these schools are so great, how come they are not free and open to every child in the UK?
At Fried M. Wings wrote,
If something is bad for children, it's bad for adults too. Smartphones paired with social media has destroyed the world. There were warning of this 20 years ago. I still remember the actual journalism about it, and nobody listened. The problem didn't just vanish, the journalists got sucked in eventually too. The world ended, that's why we don't even have notable unique culture past 2000-ish. It's from social media. We have to destroy it like it's Skynet. There isn't another option.
At the Man 2745 wrote,
It all starts when you bring your kid to church, mosque, temple. We tell children to believe in fantasies and dreams and refute science. When you idolize money and your only sense of community is in your echo chamber religious buildings.
At William MS wrote,
White, I agree too much screen time is harmful. She lost me when she adopted the instance. All tech is harmful. Let us go back to Stone Age. A book is a book, whatever it is made of paper, or is in a computer or Kindle.
And Nostradavid 2 wrote,
And once you do give them a machine, make sure it's a laptop, so they can learn a proper operating system, instead of only learning the use of a touchscreen. Keyboards are still the best input device for a computer.
At Jennifer Owen 128 wrote,
I have long since had this complaint with my daughter's current teacher. She's a young teacher whom I believe genuinely doesn't see the harm in what she's doing, but she has her students do most of their work on computers. My daughter is 9. Over March break, we decided to make her do homework at home, old school pencil and paper math workbook. She went from writing all of her 2s, 3s, 5s, 6s, and sometimes 7s backwards to almost never in just 1 week. That was all it took for me to see how damaging the consistent screen time was.
At Arab Sarkar 2509 wrote,
I listened and posted this to our teacher's WhatsApp group. I doubt any would even take time to listen. Even then, it is evil not to warn knowing the danger. Let God be merciful to us all.
At Maria Berger 8774 wrote,
Euphemisms like digital school of the future, self-directed learning, learning landscapes, or open instruction are still effective, especially among those responsible within the school system. Teachers who play along with this literally are still being promoted, while those who offer real, personal instruction are considered outdated. Even in the field of education, a reversal of perpetrator and victim occurs constantly, driven by the rewarding of blind faith in technology and concrete financial interests.
Edelxero 2189 wrote,
Saddled your palms aren't the ones being greased by big tech. So you're just going to have to suck it up and glue your nose to that screen. Your children, too.
Estroy the Machine wrote,
I have been arguing for years that it is completely illegal for a person under 18 to have a phone that can access the internet. Parental protections are a joke, and every kid knows that they can be removed in minutes thanks to factory resets. It is a crime to give a child access to adult content. There is no protection. You are exposing your children to porn, and if it is not their phone, it is someone else's. My girls used to come home and tell me that boys would look up porn and then call out their name and turn the phone around. The school did nothing until I got pissed off and suggested we take it to litigation and phones were banned at school. That is not good enough. We are getting lazy with our kids and expecting other people to raise them to meet our expectations. The law, the government do nothing to improve society. It is all a lie, and you know it. Now they want to lock children up because they are breaking the law. The law stops parents disciplining their children. Do you not see the circular idiocy and the inevitable downfall? Society gets worse every year, and we just complain while doing nothing about it. To think police can solve crime is also ridiculous, and I am not being silly here. 65,000 cops and 25 million people. Do you think one person can contain 384 people? Insanity, not even a close possibility. They are a fraud, and your safety does not exist. They cost us a fortune for little result, draining the economy for nothing except their own crazy perceptions. Take drug testing, for example, which results in 3 to 5% conviction rate for having something in your system not being affected. How many are affected is unknown, but less than those numbers, so the risk is less than they claim. Each test is $50. They have tested me 9 or 10 times in a year with no result, and I dropped one of the tests, so $50 down the toilet. So $550 for noting it made me start calculating. 100 people at that rate is $55,000, not including what they pay the police to work. Car running cost, environmental impact, loss from inconvenience. I am sure most of you see to just drug swab 100,000 people is $55 $25 million with a 3% result. We are to blame because too many of us want to be children. We cause all of this by not controlling ourselves and our government. They write laws for us as the police do, but they represent us, idiots.
At Alex Tagiar 8 wrote,
It's all good and great, but to have great teachers, we need to have great incentive. Actual livable wages. How can we say we put the future into our teachers, and yet they're on minimum wage most of the time?
At James 8095 wrote,
Well, abolish private schools if you want a level. Be playing field where AI is not needed. Excellent teachers are not a given. Australian ban on internet for teenagers is simply to have everyone need digital ID so they can track you comments and follow UK by abolishing freedom of speech.
At Valley Weblog wrote,
Jesus Christ, the thrill of hope for a sick, hurting, and weary world. Romans 10:9-10 from the Bible, that if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart man believes to righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made to salvation.
At RAC 8KS wrote,
Hey, Western world. You boast about the great advancement you gave to humanity, silicone tech, but it's been a quarter of a century, and all you have brought is the destruction of the human race.
At Oren 0083 wrote,
Oh, my dear Zoe from 2.5 Men. Couldn't believe how much she has progressed since the past 10 years, yet she still looks the same, as lovely and intellectual as her character.
The Super Monster wrote,
Don't blame the schools. Kids aren't at school most of the time. They're at home more than at school. It's on the parents. I actually teach kids. Swimming, though, so no screens, of course. But I see parents give kids tablets to watch shows while waiting to keep them quiet. Young ones, too. Even kids 2 and under.